Queen of the Ring tournament has only ever happened once in the history of the WWE, and even though it's only ever happened once, it's already suffering from the same thing that the recent King of the Ring tournaments have been suffering from, which is that it feels meaningless to win the King of the Ring. And that's what happened with the last Queen of the Ring tournament, because the winner got nothing. All they got was a crown, a robe, a scepter, and they went around calling themselves royalty. That's what happened to Queen Zelina. I mean, I guess if they're lucky, they might get a new Death Rebel theme. Good luck with that. But this year's King and Queen of the Ring tournaments feel different. Now, they haven't announced that the winners are going to get anything like a world title opportunity, but it still feels like it's must-watch TV. Part of the reason is because both the men's and the women's tournament is full of main event caliber talent. And if they're not main event caliber talent, they're either youngsters on their way to become main eventers or veterans that are still showing that they still got it. We've already looked at the King of the Ring tournament in a previous video, so if you want to look at that, just look through my page. But today we're going to be looking at the Queen of the Ring tournament. We're going to go through the entire tournament match by match, and I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win each one of those matches and who I think is going to come out at the very end of the tournament as your new Queen of the Ring. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's jump into it. So most of the Queen of the Ring matches have been announced. There's only one that hasn't been announced, so I'm actually going to fantasy book that one. On top of that, some of the matches that we're going to talk about here have actually already happened and they already have a winner. However, even if the match has already happened, we're still going to go through the entire tournament match by match, and if the match has already happened, I'm going to tell you whether or not the right person actually won. All right, now let's get started. First, let's start off with the Raw side of the bracket, which started off with Io Sky versus Natalya, and I hope that this match reminded the world that Natalya is freaking awesome at this game of professional wrestling. Sure, she's not at the point anymore where she's going to be winning world titles, headlining PLEs, headlining WrestleMania, but she's at a point in her career where she is just so crisp with her wrestling. On top of that, we need to be just so appreciative of her because she's putting over talent like Io Sky, because she lost to Io Sky, and she's down in NXT doing work over there, getting the next generation of women superstars ready for me and you. So just take a second to please acknowledge Natalya. Out of all of the matches that have already happened, in my opinion, this was the best one. Like I've already alluded to, Natalya was fantastic in this match, and to no one's surprise, Io Sky was also phenomenal. I ultimately do think that the right person won. It is the right choice to have Io go not just to win this match, but to go really deep into this tournament. On top of that, it's not as if Natalya is lacking work because she's so busy with NXT. She's got a feud over there, she's having matches, she's mentoring people, so it's no surprise that she lost this considering she's pulling double duty. But when I look at things just on paper, 100% the right person won. It needed to be Io Sky. On top of that, Io Sky just joined the Monday Night Raw roster, and with Rhea Ripley out on the shelf, they need to build Io Sky as one of the top heels on Monday Night Raw, and her winning this match on her Raw re-debut and her going deep into this tournament, it's going to be a great way to cement her as that person that can fill the void that Rhea Ripley has left. So yes, good on you WWE. I think you made the right call by having Io Sky move forward. The next match actually hasn't happened yet because this is a match that's scheduled to happen at a live show this weekend, that being Shayna Baszler versus the reigning, defending Queen of the Ring, Zelina Vega. This was an odd choice. I don't understand the decision to not have this on TV. Just like Kofi Kingston and Rey Mysterio, people would have liked to see Shayna Baszler take on the reigning Queen of the Ring. That's, in my opinion, a really important aspect that makes this match a thing that you need to see on TV. Because if the reigning Queen of the Ring is being relegated off of TV, in my opinion, you're telling the world that the Queen of the Ring from the past doesn't matter. And if the Queen of the Ring from the past doesn't matter, why should we care about the Queen of the Ring of the present? You see what I'm saying? On top of that, I do feel like they had plenty of time on Monday Night Raw to have this match. Just think of how long, agonizingly long, that Becky Lynch segment went on with the interview with Michael Cole. You could have had a 7, 8, 10-minute match between Shayna Baszler and Zelina Vega. In terms of who I think is going to win this match, I am going to take Zelina Vega because I do think it's important to make the previous Queen of the Ring look strong in this tournament. Again, if you are burying the Queen of the Ring from the past, you're inadvertently making the Queen of the Ring of the present feel less important. On top of that, Shayna Baszler is very busy in NXT. Just like Natalya, she's got feuds, she's having matches over there, and she's mentoring somebody in NXT, so she's got plenty going on as well. Additionally, Zelina Vega, just like Io Sky, is a brand new addition to Monday Night Raw, and if you want to cement her as a big player in the women's division, she should win this. So I'm going to be taking the reigning, okay, I'm not going to do that every single time. Zelina Vega is going to move on. Next up, the match that was announced was NXT call-up Lyra Valkiria taking on Asuka, which is, in my opinion, a bit of a dream match that unfortunately didn't happen because of injury. So many people are injured. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what's in the water in the WWE right now. So instead of getting Lyra Valkiria versus Asuka, we got, in my opinion, a different dream match between Lyra Valkiria and Dakota Kai in a fantastic match. The only downside of this match was Lyra Valkiria basically getting a glorified jobber entrance, because she's got this really cool elaborate entrance with the lights and the sounds and her entrance gear with the feathers, and she didn't get to do any of that on her Raw debut because she ended up making in a run-in save for Becky Lynch. I feel like she should have just gotten her full proper entrance. But that's, honest to God, just nitpicking at this point. The match was good, and I do think that the right person won. Just like Ilya Dragunov, I do think that you need to really stamp, seal, deliver, and laminate that these NXT call-ups are going to be a big deal, and doing this with Lyra Valkyria is a great way to do it. I do think that she's going to go deeper into this tournament, so I do think that this was the right call to have Lyra Valkyria win. Chelsea Green! Yeah. Holy shit! Oh my God! Oh my goodness! Oh my God! It's so dumb. That was a sneak peek of this week's insane lineup of matches for the Wrestling is Cool Match Club, which is available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, you're getting the NXT North American title match, an intergender match between Chelsea Green and Penta, a death match between Samoa Joe and a guy named Necro the Butcher, the Wyatt family versus The Shield, and Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes. I genuinely believe that this is going to be our best week of content on the Patreon ever. It's just more content that I can't show you on Patreon, and with how violent some of these matches are this week, I couldn't show them to you on YouTube even if I wanted to. On top of that, you get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early. This week's episode is already up. You get the Raw reviews and the SmackDown reviews as well. We're doing our absolute best to get you the best value on this Patreon. I really think that if you check it out, even for just 1 month, that you're gonna fall in love with it. So again, that's patreon.com/SantiZap, patreon.com/SantiZap. Check the top link in the description or the link that I'll put in the pinned comment. All right, back to the video. And the last match from the Raw side of the bracket saw Zoe Stark taking on Ivy Nile. Not in a million years did I think that Ivy Nile was going to win this. I did think that this was the best decision to make, to have Zoe Stark move on. I don't have too many thoughts on this match because it was one of the shorter matches of the night, but I do think that the WWE made the right call with Zoe Stark. Don't forget, Zoe Stark is just a few months removed from being in the women's main event of Survivor Series against Rhea Ripley, and she's had numerous title opportunities, and she's had feuds with Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. Like, she can play ball in the main event scene. She's just sort of been drifting over the last couple of months in this kind of middling tag team division. So hopefully this Queen of the Ring tournament could be a way to reintroduce Zoe Stark as a main eventer in the women's division. So Zoe Stark won, and I do think it's the right call. SmackDown is where things honestly get interesting because they just announced the matches, and as of the making of this video, none of the matches have actually happened, and one of the matches is actually a mystery match. Let's start off with Bianca Belair versus Candice LeRae. Folks, sell everything you own, all right? Go out, get a second mortgage, go get a giant loan, go find your local mobster and take out a high interest loan from them. And I need you to put it all on Bianca Belair, all right? Bianca Belair is not losing to Candice LeRae. I'm sorry. This is the easiest choice in this tournament. That Bianca Belair needs to win this. 100% she's going to. I know that there's a lot of questions about like, why are the women's tag team champions in this tournament? Dude, who cares, man? Like, at the end of the day, like, they're not a real tag team. They are two single singles megastars that just happen to come together. Who knows for how long, but at their core, they're singles megastars that just happen to be holding the tag titles. I get your complaint, but look, this tournament needs star power, and Bianca and Jade Cargill are gonna give you that star power. I think it would be dumb to keep them off this tournament because of some technicality that they're tag champions when they're the biggest stars on Friday Night SmackDown. Speaking of which, let's talk about Jade Cargill, and kind of similarly to Bianca Belair, I think that you can place everything that you own on Jade Cargill winning this. However, this won't be a runaway like the Bianca Belair match. I do think that Piper Niven is gonna put up a good match. I do think that in recent weeks, they've been making Piper Niven look strong. Remember how she performed in the Battle Royal for the Women's World Championship, how she was involved in that tussle with Becky Lynch, where she took out Becky Lynch, where she stood toe-to-toe with Nia Jax. So maybe the WWE is finally doing justice to Piper Niven and making her the monster that she ought to be. Still, I also think that she's a great stepping stone for somebody like Jade Cargill, because Jade Cargill can show off her strength against Piper Niven. I do hope that it's more than a 30-second match. I will say that, but I'm taking Jade Cargill here. This is a fascinating one. This is a tough call. We have Naomi taking on Nia Jax, and I think that either of these two could win. I like the Naomi pick because she was protected even in her loss at Backlash, even though she was the one that got pinned, because she wasn't taken out, she wasn't beaten down, she was just slightly outsmarted by the savvy veteran that is Bayley. So she was protected coming out of that women's main event, in my opinion. And she's still a new shiny toy for the WWE, as she just joined the WWE not that long ago, and since joining the WWE has been in high profile matches and high profile feuds. So clearly there's a lot of value in having Naomi move on. On top of that, it could create some interesting dynamics if the entirety of the big three, that being Bianca, Jade Cargill, and Naomi, are in the second round. That could create a bit of animosity and maybe, dare I say, some heel turns, but I think that might be a little bit too early to say. However, when we look at Nia Jax, that's freaking Nia Jax. That's one of the most protected women in the WWE today. Not only that, she's one of the most dominant ones, and she's brand new to Friday Night SmackDown. And we were saying with a couple of the women that just joined Monday Night Raw that they probably want to cement them as big players on Monday Night Raw. I have to make the same argument here for Nia Jax as well. On top of that, Nia Jax winning allows us to finally pay off that stare down and elimination between Jade Cargill and Nia Jax at this year's Royal Rumble. Don't forget that that was a thing and something that they're gonna want to re-explore again. And I think that the Queen of the Ring tournament is a great place to do it. So honestly, I think you could toss a coin, but I'm gonna take Nia Jax because she just joined SmackDown, and the fact that she could have this match with Jade Cargill and she could give Jade Cargill back-to-back like heavyweights, where Jade Cargill can show off that strength, which is the thing that makes her stand out so much amongst the other women. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I'm taking Nia. And the last match of round one, as of the making of this video at least, is an unknown. So I'm gonna fantasy book this one for you. I'm gonna make this between a babyface and a heel. So I'm gonna throw in Tegan Nox. You might be going, oh, well. Look, she just got drafted to SmackDown. She has a lot of mileage left in her career. And so just having her appear in this tournament would be a nice thing. However, I am saying that she would likely be fodder to somebody, and I think she might be fodder to a brand new called up, the person that was, in my opinion, the most main roster ready woman to be called up from NXT to the main roster, in Blair Davenport. This would also give the King of the Ring a nice European flavor as well. In the men's tournament, both the Raw and the SmackDown side have a NXT call-up. SmackDown has Carmelo Hayes and Raw has Ilya Dragunov. And I think we should do the same thing with the women, with the Raw side having Lyra Valkiria, and let's have SmackDown be represented by Blair Davenport. If this match does happen, I think it would be a no-brainer. I think you're gonna give the win to Blair Davenport. So again, this is a little bit of fantasy booking, but I like the idea of this match. Now we're on to the second round set of matches, and we're going back to Monday Night Raw. This would put Io Sky taking on the reigning, I said I wouldn't do that again, against Zelina Vega. Like I alluded to earlier, I do think that Io Sky is being set up for a really deep run in this tournament. Because of that, I am gonna be taking her to beat Zelina Vega here, but it's gonna be a pretty competitive match. To the point where it's possible that Io Sky only only wins because of involvement from Damage Control, just like how she won against Natalya. This could be a reoccurring theme in all of her matches. Unfortunately, Zelina Vega doesn't have other women in the LWO to come even out the odds. So I do think that at some point or another, the numbers game is going to come into fruition. Io Sky is going to win and she's going to move on and likely go into Saudi Arabia. On the other side of the Raw bracket, we have Lyra Valkiria taking on Zoe Stark, and I think I could make a really strong argument for either of these two. With Zoe Stark, you have a proven talent that has been in the women's main event scene, so if you want to re-propel her to that main event scene, she should be the one that wins here. However, in the most recent episode of Monday Night Raw, they've already created animosity between Lyra Valkiria and Damage Control, and on top of that, she beat the, I guess, mouthpiece or leader of Damage Control in Dakota Kai in the first round. So I think it would make sense for Lyra Valkiria to win and then take on the in-ring leader of Damage Control in Io Sky. It seems a little bit far-fetched to have an NXT call-up go this deep into the tournament, but I think in terms of narratives that are put in front of us, I do think that the Damage Control piece does play into play here. If it wasn't already for this existing animosity and feud between Lyra Valkiria, Becky Lynch, and Damage Control, I could see Zoe Stark winning, but because that already exists, because it makes the final of Raw a bit more meaningful to have Lyra Valkiria take on the in-ring leader of Damage Control, I'm gonna take Lyra Valkiria here. On the SmackDown semifinal side of things, that would give us Bianca Belair versus Blair Davenport in what I think could be the best match of the tournament. I actually think that these two would complement each other so well in the ring. And I think that Bianca Belair could be what Jey Uso is gonna be to Ilya Dragunov, because I picked Jey Uso to beat Ilya Dragunov, but for Ilya Dragunov to come out looking like $1 million, I think that Bianca Belair can do that for Blair Davenport. I think Blair Davenport could put on the fight of a lifetime, but still lose to a first ballot Hall of Famer, top of the women's food chain, Bianca Belair. So I am gonna take Bianca Belair, but don't sleep on Blair Davenport having a fantastic match and a great showing in some close calls against Bianca. Okay, all right, I know you're probably thinking, this is obvious, it has to be Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair in the final of the SmackDown's Women's Queen of the Ring. However, no, that shit is a WrestleMania match or a SummerSlam match. It's not gonna happen at the Queen of the Ring tournament, just like how Ilya Dragunov versus Gunther is not gonna happen in the King of the Ring. It's not gonna happen. I foresee a couple of things happening here. I do think that Jade Cargill is gonna look fantastic. She's gonna be on the cusp of victory, but I think you could have involvement from Tiffany Stratton, or maybe, just maybe, Tiffany Stratton comes out, Bianca Belair comes to even out the odds, and somehow, some way, Bianca Belair trying to help Jade Cargill, maybe she accidentally costs Jade Cargill the match, thus allowing Nia Jax to move on, and thus creating a bit of friction and animosity between the tag champs that could eventually be paid off at something bigger like SummerSlam or WrestleMania. Trust me, you don't want this match to happen just yet. Let it marinate. Let's let this happen at a much bigger show. I don't think that this would lead to the breakup of Bianca versus Jade Cargill. I think that there would be apologies, people would accept each other's apologies, and they would move on, but it would always be in the back of Jade Cargill's head that Bianca accidentally, or maybe even on purpose, cost her the win here. So, shockingly, I've got Nia Jax moving on here. In the Raw final, I have Lyra Valkiria going deep into this tournament as a rookie. Call her the Cinderella story of this tournament, taking on what is the favorite from the Raw side of things, Io Sky. I would advise you to pick Io Sky here if you're gonna put any money on things. I think that this is Io Sky's tournament to lose at this point. I don't think that an NXT rookie is gonna go so far to the point that they're going to be the Queen of the Ring main event in Saudi Arabia. I just don't see it. Once again, I do think that it's going to be involvement from Damage Control. I'm sure Becky Lynch will get involved, but there's just too many members of Damage Control to the point where it's just going to be impossible to overcome. I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe this is the match that Asuka comes back in. So from the Raw side of things, the representative going to Saudi Arabia, in my opinion, is going to be Io Sky. And from the SmackDown side of things, fellas, I think we're going to run it again. I think that I'm going to have Bianca Belair here to take on Io Sky in Saudi Arabia. I think that they could do some dramatic irony here as well, because I think you could have, once again, Tiffany Stratton come out, try and get involved to try and help Nia Jax, or Nia Jax doing some underhanded tactics, and then Jade Cargill comes out to even out the odds. But unlike Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill actually properly helps Bianca Belair be able to overcome the odds and pick up the victory. Again, creating more of that friction of Jade Cargill was actually able to help, while Bianca Belair accidentally cost Jade Cargill the victory. See, a little bit more friction to give us this really big blow-up match at SummerSlam or WrestleMania. And we need a babyface to go take on Io Sky at this point. So we're gonna take Bianca Belair to win the SmackDown side of things and go into Saudi Arabia to represent SmackDown in the Queen of the Ring final. And fellas, if you're not excited by this match, then go back and watch their absolute banger in Puerto Rico for the Raw Women's Championship back in 2023. Bianca Belair versus Io Sky was a fantastic match, and I cannot wait for them to run this again. And I wanted this to be the final because it also works with the narrative that's going on SmackDown with Bianca Belair becoming maybe a little bit too over-obsessed with everything that went down with Damage Control and Bayley. If you're reading between the lines and you're seeing these backstage segments with Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, you can see and sense some frustration in Jade Cargill every single time that Bianca Belair brings up Damage Control. So this could end up being a really nice blow-off to that particular side of the narrative of Bianca Belair maybe becoming overly obsessed with everything that Damage Control has done to her. And you could add this as another check mark to Bianca Belair's frustration with Damage Control, as I think that she's going to lose the Queen of the Ring tournament once again because of involvement from Damage Control, which would give Bianca Belair another set of months to be able to complain about what happened to her because of Damage Control, which gives her more reason and more animosity towards people like Bayley. I'm not saying that this is gonna lead to a Bianca Belair heel turn, because I genuinely can never see Bianca Belair being heel on the main roster. But I think they're gonna play with our emotions and make us believe that this is maybe a descent down into madness. So folks, this is who I have winning the Queen of the Ring. I have Io Sky winning, and I think it's going to be because of Damage Control. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know who you think is going to win the Queen of the Ring tournament, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.